Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equality, and so much more. We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders.
I am Larvetta Lofton, your host and the founder of the L3 Agency.
Known as the brand maven who transforms organizations with her storytelling prowess, meet Larvetta L. Lofton, host of Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact.
Well, guys, man, I'm going to tell you this. You know, we've had such a good run with Women's History Month, but I love when I get a dope woman in the studio and we get to chop it up and talk about just the struggles, and maybe not so much the struggles, but just identifying areas that we can grow in. I'm so excited about our next guest, guys. She's not from Chicago, but she is from the Midwest. And you all know the other city that's dope is D-Town, Detroit. I'm excited to have her because I think this might be our first guest from out of Detroit. So, yeah, that's huge. So for all of those that are from Detroit and are listening, we got one in the house. We got one in the West. She is a native of Detroit, which is even better, right? She's just not living in Detroit. She's from the D-Town. Dr. Carmen Bell-Ross is a native Detroiter who has made her life's work about understanding people. I love that. And that's how we just connected, just in 10 minutes, just her understanding of people. She's even circled the globe studying social issues and experiencing culture in countries, including Brazil, South Africa, Kenya, China, Japan, Cuba, Vietnam, Guatemala, and Italy. She is totally relatable because she knows how to genuinely connect with whomever is in front of her. And I just experienced that. Affectionately called Dr. Carmen. And we gonna call her Dr. Carmen because I love it. She earned that. She is a broadly qualified leadership consultant, workforce development specialist, executive coach, keynote speaker, training facilitator, and researcher. Having built a 20-year career in developing and facilitating professional development programs in leadership, communication, workforce readiness, sexual harassment, diversity, equity, and inclusion, she specializes in helping leaders connect what is meaningful to them with the outcomes they desire. So I'm going to jump around a little bit in her bio. She's just dope, like for real. But the one thing that I think is also dope is that she holds a bachelor's degree in international studies and Spanish. That part I do want to dig in a little bit different. But she has had the unique and challenging experience of completing her doctoral studies in 2 different disciplines, educational psychology and management and leadership. And she's a proven resource with her experience, knowledge, and skills. She brings the change. She's going to bring the noise, y'all. Get ready, get ready, get ready. Welcome, Dr. Carmen.
Thank you so much. I was listening to that bio like, that's me?
Yeah, that's you, girl.
That's a lot.
That's you, girl. You've done a lot in 20 years, and you look like you about 25. So somewhere along the line, you started when you know. So she looks like, I know every time I have bring up guests and they're like, of course people can't see. I just say, well, you know what? Just get a visual of a beautiful 18-year-old who has 20 years of experience. That's who we got. That's what we got. That's what we got. So, Dr. Carmen, before we go into your awesomeness and what you're doing around leadership, and honestly, to be honest with you, D&I, we're going to talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
And communication, because I do want to talk a little bit about that too. Who was Dr. Carmen, or should I say Carmen, as a little girl?
Oh, wow. So, man, nobody has ever asked me that.
People say that. Every time I ask people say that all the time. And I'm like, you being the little girl is how we connect to who you are today.
You are absolutely right. So I'm probably the same on the inside. I was
Wow.
always really active. I
Okay.
was bouncing around. I was that kid that like was gonna make a song out of anything. Now I can't sing. Let's be clear. Okay. But you say something to me, I was about to be walking around singing and
Love it.
dancing.
I love
You
it.
know, I always was, trying to make everybody else happy and make other people
Mm,
smile and
mm.
laugh. And I've always been very playful. My birthday is the first day of spring. It's March 20th. I don't care what anybody says. March
Oh
21st is not the first day of spring.
no,
March
it's
20th is the first day of spring. March 21st is the first full day of spring. Okay?
I
But
love
in
it.
any
I
case,
love it. I love it.
I used to go to school and I would be like on March 20th, I am the spring princess and
I
you are
love it.
welcome. I
Oh
have
my
ushered
gosh,
in
Dr.
the
Carter, I
spring.
love that. So I'm gonna call you. I like the spring print because I love when spring comes. I'm like, oh, whoever's. It's funny. One of my good friends, I just texted her this earlier today because she used to live in Chicago. She moved to Dallas, and it's beautiful here. Like it's like 75. So I was like, thank you for bringing this beautiful weather because I know for Chicago in March, honey, it's this. It's not this, right? And I know this for Detroit. So the fact that I now have a spring princess in my life, I
Yes.
know that I can call on the spring princess. I need you
Yes.
to get this weather
And
right.
let me tell you one more thing I just learned. And I mean, I might be late to the party, but did you know that before Julius Caesar changed the calendar, that spring was the actual new year? Did you know that?
I did not.
So I have friends who always are telling me about, I call them conspiracy theorists, but they were like, conspiracy theorists is something that the government came up with. Okay, whatever. Anyway, but the point is that I have a friend who was like, this is not the real New Year. When we were ushering in the New Year, and they're like, the real New Year is spring. Now, normally I don't look stuff up, but I'm the spring princess.
Yes, you're the
So I
spring
had to look
princess.
that one up, honey.
Yes, yes.
And I looked it up, and it was really because nothing new comes in the dead of winter. Why do we celebrate the new year when everything is dead?
Wow,
The spring is where the buds start to come
that's
out and
so
things
true.
start to grow anew. And when we talk about when the day is split right in
Yep,
half between
yep,
like day and
yep,
night, that's
yep.
that's that's the first day of spring. And so if you look it up, Julius Caesar changed our calendar. And that's why we have all these adjustments. And there are days that it's like, okay, we got to add a day here. We got to leap a year here. We have to add out like all these different
Wow.
adjustments to make it make sense because our calendar was originally saying that I, the spring princess, also usher in the new year. So happy new year almost, y'all.
You know what? So probably by the time this airs, it will be the new year. So happy new
Yes.
year. Happy.
Yes.
I love this. So we get to be happy in our new year. And I'm glad you just taught us something because sometimes we know, right? We've been spoon fed certain things and that's what we believe, but you are a researcher. It said that in your bio. You are a researcher. So we know that you researched this because you are the spring princess. Okay. So
Yes.
we have to honor the spring princess as Dr. Carmen. So I'm going to say this as a little girl, what was your favorite subject?
Ooh. As a little girl, my favorite subject was always the foreign languages. Every year of school when I was a child, um, literally every year all the way through college, I was studying some version of a foreign language.
Wow.
Because I went to an elementary school in Detroit. It was called Burton International.
Oh,
It
I'm
was in
not
the public
familiar
school
with
system.
Burton. Okay.
Yes, and it was my
It
elementary
was a private
school.
school, right?
No,
Oh, no.
Detroit Public Schools.
Oh.
And it was an introduction to me to the world being so much bigger than my city and the people I knew. And
Mm-hmm.
they were very intentional about introducing us to cultures and we had students from all over the place
Mm-hmm.
and they made sure we learned languages. Now, granted, I think we did German from third to sixth grade, and I probably got about six good words, and I counted 10. But I mean, we were kids, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I know, oh,
Yeah.
wait, I got my German word, Fledermaus,
Well, no, what's that?
a bat, a flying mouse, get it? Fledermaus.
Oh,
See,
Fleeter.
that's the one. I
Oh, I
remember
can
that.
get
So,
that.
no,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
but for real, but for real. But
Are
I
you
thought it was
fluent
so
in other?
cool.
What other languages are you fluent in?
I was literate in Spanish.
Okay.
You know, if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yep.
But
Yep.
but I have the ability pretty quickly to pick up on conversational languages if I'm going somewhere.
Okay.
I know kind of what
What
I
you?
need to
Okay. Okay.
yeah pick up on. But I'm really only fluent in English.
So the Spring Princess
Yeah.
has loves foreign language, grew up
Yes.
with it,
Yeah.
but she's fluent in English. I love that. I just love it. I
Correct.
love it. I
Yes,
love it.
correct.
I
And I
love
have
it.
a degree in Spanish, which
That's
is
why when I
crazy,
said, I was
right?
like, okay, she's about to give us some Espanol.
No,
No.
because you know what? I learned this is why I should have been a researcher before I was really a researcher. I was like, oh, Spanish. I love foreign language. I'll just take Spanish in college. I didn't realize that getting a degree in Spanish was like getting a degree in English. They are
Yeah.
not teaching you how to speak
Yeah.
the language. You are
Yeah.
reading literature.
Yeah.
You are analyzing poetry.
Yep.
And you are
That's
looking
true.
at, historical things. Like we were reading the equivalent of Shakespeare in Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
it
true.
was very different. It wasn't conversational.
Yeah.
Conversational Spanish you get to pick up when you speak with people who actually speak Spanish.
Yeah. You do. It's
Yeah.
funny because I have a girlfriend. I was saying, I need to know conversational Spanish because a lot of times, right, they do work for you for various reasons. What I'm not going to do is stereotype them because I know we get stereotyped, right? But when they start going, I'd be like, let me put my Google Translator on so I can make sure you're not talking about me. Well, then I come back with book. They like, oh, yep. One of them was so shocked. We were in Orlando and she was cleaning up the room, but she was, she was on the phone and talking and I didn't like that. I'm like, cause I don't really know what you're saying. So I turned it on so I could make sure she wasn't talking about us. So I came with something. She turned around. I was like, yeah, you thought I didn't know no Spanish, but it was on the phone. So I just repeated what the phone said. And it was a classic moment, but some of them I think have used that, right? Because they know that, they've come over here or come to America, not having learned English per se. And so I've been more intentional with what you're not going to do is start talking in Spanish and I can't understand it. And then, so now I'm going to pull out my phone so I can understand you're not talking about me behind my back. So that's one of the things.
Well, you know what? Let me say, I want to offer another perspective on that too. When I was younger and I was doing a lot of travel, even in college, and I would go to other countries where they spoke other languages. Why? Because I wanted to be there and I thought culture was fun and cool.
Yeah.
Why? Because of my Detroit Public Schools experience.
Yeah.
But what I found, even when I was in Spanish-speaking countries, and at that time I was bilingual,
Okay.
my mother tongue is English, okay? So even though I can speak Spanish, my comfort, my default is English. My brain has to do something different for me to speak Spanish, though I was able to do it. And when I would have conversations with people, it wasn't that when I'm in another country, in a Spanish-speaking country, if I knew they spoke English, I preferred to speak English because I knew I was properly conveying my sentiment. I was giving them exactly,
That's
the
good.
nuances
Thank
of
you.
everything.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about the person that was in front of me. And I meant it as no disrespect to anyone.
Yeah.
It was just easier for me because it was hard for my brain to quickly,
Regulate from it.
transition.
Yeah, I can see
And
that.
so what I just offer up to people because I know we all get frustrated, especially anytime you think somebody's talking about you. I don't care if you're speaking in English and I think you're talking about me.
That's
We're
true.
gonna have a little problem.
That's true.
Okay.
That's true, Dr. Carmen. That's you know what?
Yeah.
Thank you. And she's probably talking. The issue was, and you're right, was that you shouldn't be on the phone while you working. So you on the phone.
That's a different issue.
Right? So in
Now,
my
that's a different
mind,
issue.
I couldn't tell you, shh, right? You get off the phone. You working, And so there's that thing, but they probably, for lack of a better, when you're in those spaces at hotel, they're not really on. The manager not watching you. So you could talk because in their minds, they're getting the job done, and she was. But I just didn't like. But to your point, I appreciate that. So thank you for that, to be sensitive to that. And I appreciate that. So knowing that I am now knowing that I have the spring princess, right? She didn't know she was the spring princess when she was a little girl, but that was what was being groomed for her, because she really just opened us up to having this Happy New Year moment. And I love that. I like 100%.
I should have sent ahead sparklers.
I know you should have. Yeah, we should have had
I'm doing
sparkles
that
and Happy New
time.
Year.
Next time, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's okay. But what we're gonna do is have people responding on this episode. Happy New Year! Happy New Year!
Right. And when I was reading about it, now you're gonna have to fact check this, because I did a quick research, because it was important to me personally to usher in the new year.
Okay.
But when I did the research on it, they said that was in melanated communities and countries that celebrated the new year differently. Now, I can't fact check that. I cannot. So somebody who's listening, you fact check it. But just FYI, I thought that was super interesting.
That is very interesting.
We like you said, we get spoon-fed a lot of information, and I don't think that we are always the critical evaluators of information, because we get so much that comes at us at a time. We accept so much as fact. Everything that we are told is not fact. Everything is not as we see it, and we don't question everything. We only question things when they bump up against something that doesn't feel right to us. But that doesn't make it all right.
It does, and I think it's I think one of the things that I've learned through this process, and I'm sure you come from the same household, right? Where I couldn't say anything until I went to the encyclopedia. So I would be like, oh, the frog is this. Well, did you check it? Did you go to this? So it was part of our DNA to have to check. I do think because things are readily available, we don't check. But I know when I was coming up, if you say that, they were going to challenge you. You were going to have to show. Remember, you would have to prove to me that, frogs eat grass, right? You had to literally show that. And I do think that we have somewhat gotten there, because we don't even know if Google is right sometimes, right? Because Google is gathering information.
If it's at the top of the Google search, we go with it. But there's a such thing as information literacy.
Yes.
And so many of us are not information literate. We don't know how to evaluate the credibility of the sources that give us information. And we have to be critical thinkers. We have the ability to do this. We just have to be more thoughtful about what we put out there, because like you said, we're getting bombarded with stuff all over the place. Somebody, tells you something, it's at the top of the Google search. We go with it. That sounds good. Like, I don't care who had put that the new year started on the first day of spring. I was going to go with it because I like that narrative.
Yeah.
Right. But the reality of it is that you should be able to identify sources that you recognize, this is credible, and here's why I think it's credible. Here's why I believe them. Here is, I can see like where they get their information. I can see their following. Like I can see there is information literacy is so
I like that
critically important right now, and it is something that I don't hear people talking about.
Yeah, I like that information literacy. I like that a whole lot, so much so. I want to talk a little bit around you as this leadership consultant, workforce development executives coach. And part of it, the reason why I want to talk a little bit about it is because, right, you are investing in people. That is what you do, right? Yeah. And so knowing that you are investing in people, how, as we look at, right, where we are, D&I, and D&I is really about people, right? That's really what it boils down to, is people, right? And making sure that, so how do you address leaders to be able to identify with themselves in rooms that don't honor D&I? Because if you are working with an organization, right, that says we're not on the bandwagon with D&I, how does a leader lead teams that are both impacted, affected by it, traumatized by it? How do you do that? As you know, how would you tell leaders to be able to push their people to be able to still want to do change, still want to change in the space that they're in a space that doesn't value their differences?
Sure. I think that we have gotten too distracted with the term DE&I, DE&I. It used to be, they talked about it, cultural diversity,
Come
then
on
it
now.
changed to,
Yep.
well, let's call it diversity, and then
Yep.
let's call it diversity and inclusion, and now let's call it diversity, equity, and inclusion. I don't
Yep.
care what you call it. The business case is every person who comes to work in your organization wants to be treated with decency and respect. Every person who comes to work in your organization wants to feel valued. They want to feel like their contribution matters. They want to feel like they can show up fully present as whoever they are. Okay. And so these terms that we're using now, where everybody is freaking out, D&I is going away, they're going to call it something else.
They are.
Because it's all about
They are.
the case. The business case is
That's
the business
right.
case.
Yeah.
Okay. At the end of the day, we used to, even prior to, the time when everybody is talking about D&I or DE&I, we would get calls from people saying, we want you to do a workshop for us on inclusive leadership. And I always thought that was so interesting because they were paying for it out of a DEI budget. Of course, that's fine. We'll
Yep.
call it whatever you want. But inclusive leadership is just good leadership. You cannot lead a team where you don't recognize that you have a lot of differences on your team, differences in how they look, differences in ethnic backgrounds, differences in their values, differences in how they think. There are people who look just like you, who have the same kind of background that you have, could have even grown up in the same house with the same parents, and you do not think the same.
That's
Okay?
right. That's right.
Diversity of thought is super important.
Absolutely.
So, for me, that's just all alphabet soup. Everybody talking about letters and what that does and does not mean. We are distracted. The business case is the business case. If you want to appeal to everyone in this country, you have to recognize every person in this country is not the same. Anytime you have more than one person in a room, you have some diversity. Now, if that's a bad word to you, then don't use it. You can say we have some differences. You can say whatever you want. But the point is the point. And that is that every person wants to be treated with decency and respect and valued. And so when leaders, try to get their team on board, you want your team to respect you. You got to make sure that, adults don't follow you just because you have a title.
Yes.
We do not roll like that.
Yes.
You are not my leader just because you have the title that says you are the boss. We don't think that way.
Yeah.
And we don't move that way. We will give you bottom minimum effort to get our paycheck.
Yeah.
Okay. They said you're the manager. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I have to do, I have to do these 10 things in order to make sure I have met the requirements to get my check. I will do those 10 things. And that is it. You will not get 10 and a half.
And I appreciate you saying that because as an agency, right, we are, marketing communications firm. And I shared that we will continue to lean into diversity because we are diverse, it's diversity in thought. Because while my team is, you might see all melanin and brown in us, right? But we think different, right? The way that our backgrounds are different. So our lived in experiences will be different, and we have to be there. So much so, Dr. Carmen, because I think you could appreciate this. I had an employee a couple of years ago. She worked for me. She had never had a professional job, and I'm using this because I want to know how can companies really merge this and really get out of this space of like experience, but really looking at getting past like where you go to school versus where your lived in experience comes from is value, right? So she was, had worked seasonal jobs, odd-end jobs and, pretty non-professional jobs. And so she ended up interning through a summer program, and I saw value in her. And so kept her on, really helped her to understand the professional environment, what that looked like. We coached her through that. Now, in the course of that, she helped us to understand what homelessness really looks like. So a lot of times we saw people on the street and we call those homeless, right? That's the term we use this. But what she didn't call was, while she didn't have a physical address and she didn't live on the street, when we use the word homeless, you don't have a permanent home right now, but you don't live on the street. And we had no idea, right? We just thought that was the only homeless person, right? So she went from home to home until she could get her own home, right? But in a professional environment, our client was looking to reach our hard to reach communities, which is our people that are, kind of, and they call them like, they move from couch to couch. They call them from couch to couch, right? But they are contributors they're paying taxes, they go to a job, they're doing the things. And so she, in her space of safety, working for us in this space, she said, I want to share something with you. It was two of our clients who, work for big companies, we'll call them, they in downtown in the boardrooms. They know all the things about the company. And she said, you're talking as if homelessness is something that every person saw. They didn't. And so homelessness with her was her mother decided to pack up, move to a different state, and she didn't want to leave as a teenager who was pregnant.
Sure.
So where does she go, right? And so when she spoke on that call, and I gave her permission because that's her story, right? I don't ever keep you from, that's your story, right? And so she shared it. When I tell you that when we were on that call, it was like we could hear a pin drop, because it was almost as if, right, somebody who had a doctorate degree in an area that they lived in just shared something with you that you were clueless to the journey. But we're sitting here talking about the homeless community and, we need to get to them. And she says, stop. And so it was that first moment. And so as, in understanding that dynamic, she really helped us to humanize homelessness in a way that, we see you on the street and we're kind to you and compassionate. But what we didn't know is that you were still contributing to your FICA. You were still communicating, you were still getting a job going. But unfortunately, your family, whether they died, they relocated, went to mental illness, and they cannot keep themselves, and she didn't know how to go get an apartment. She didn't know how to go get those things, right? Those things that in some regards, we assume people know. And she didn't know that because her mother left her, right, to move to a different state to only figure out, what do I do, right? And so there was a tremendous amount of young students in high school who were very much like that, right? They went to school for food. They went to school for heat. That was what they did. And so the reason why I brought that up is because the reason, as we move into this space of because you study in workforce development, how are companies being able to engage these level of people who want to work, who are excited to work, but perhaps, college isn't part of their DNA right now, right? It doesn't mean that it can't be, but right now they're in survival mode. And we're seeing that because the cost of living, everything is so high. And so I'm asking you, how can these companies, because we're seeing we see Generation Alpha not having social skills, not having critical thinking skills, but the person that didn't have the home, she's actually a critical thinker because she's figuring out what house I'm going to this week. Okay, where I'm going to figure out this. Well, where's my child? So she's literally thinking this through. So how are we able to see or allow for companies to see that as still a valuable employee for your organization, but they're not, they're not wrapped into this, the story of they went to college, they studied this. And so how, as we move into this space, how can we impact organizations to be able to look at workforce development different? Well, let me say this, look at hiring different from a workforce development. Maybe that's what I'm thinking from.
So first, let me say this. You said a lot to unpack, and I want to start with I love that story, and I love it for a lot of reasons. One is that we all have these spaces where we think we understand somebody's experience because maybe we have seen enough of it that we're like, I know enough about that I can, I can relate to that experience. My cousin had that experience. My uncle, homeless. We have an idea of what we believe it means to be homeless. And so, if you are a person who is providing services, products to serve that population, but what you don't realize is that all that population is not living under the viaduct. Okay, yeah. What you don't realize is that there are a lot of people, even college educated people,
that's true,
who are currently not in their own space, yep, for whatever reasons. Mm-hmm. What you don't know is what you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know.
That's right.
So I will say this for those of you who do own businesses, we all have these spots we can't see. What do they call them when we're driving?
The blind spots, baby.
Okay, we all have those, and you have to consider, how do you provide the best services and opportunities, even for yourself, if you don't have those voices at the table?
You're listening to Black Businesses Matter, and we will continue our conversation in a second. But first, take a listen to this special message for our BBM fam.
We know how important it is to stay connected, so why not join our BBM Fam Club for special announcements and exclusive offers by texting BBM FAM to 312-300-1300. That's BBM FAM to 312-300-1300 today. Now let's get back to Black Businesses Matter.
One of the things that I found really interesting, I work with a lot of nonprofit organizations. We are partnering with the city of Detroit to administer technical, we administer a grant and we provide technical assistance to a number of grassroots nonprofit organizations. And one of the things that I have shared with them is that funders have looked at the research now where they recognize that when you are looking at your executive board, if your executive board does not have representation of the community and the people that you specifically serve, then they are less likely to give you funds. Because the research says that you are more successful at serving that population and being impactful when you actually have their voices, their lived experience on your decision-making team. And so a lot of times, people will say, oh, well, I want to provide a program for, young mothers who have, young single mothers who have experienced homelessness, right? Do you have a woman on your board who was a single mother who, when she was young and who experienced homelessness? Is she, I'm not talking about as a volunteer, I'm talking about somebody whose voice you actually listen to when you are in the rooms making the highest level decisions. Because you're not going to reach them if you don't understand their experience, right? And I'm not saying one person speaks for everyone, but we can certainly avoid a lot of the things that somebody would bring up as, hey, have you considered that, like, everybody doesn't, sleep on the street. Everybody isn't in a shelter. Have you considered that, these things? So one, I love your story because I think that it makes the business case for diversity all by itself. Okay. It really does. But again, if we don't want to use that word, it makes the business case for having representation of whoever it is you are trying to serve.
That's good.
Layered through every single organization, every single layer of decision making in your organization. Every layer. You know why? Because somebody along the way is going to catch some of your big mistakes. And they're going to say, wait a minute, that's offensive, right? Or wait a minute, that might be a problem. Or they might say, you're not even going to capture your target audience that way because they're not interested in that. I did a speech one day with a group where I was talking to people who were in hospitality.
Oh, good.
And
Okay.
I said, okay, how many of you all have stayed at hotels before you got free shampoo? And so everybody raised their hands. And I said, how many of you have stayed at a hotel and you got free shampoo and you could not use that shampoo on your hair? And so all the black women in the room raised their hands, and people were like, "Why not?" And so someone else said, one of the women says, "Because it makes our hair dry out and fall out and da 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 da." I said, "Do you think that the marketing team or whatever team procures all of those things that go in hotel rooms said, 'Ooh, we want to make sure we have a product that serves everybody but black women'?" No, they didn't say that. It was a spot they couldn't see. And if they had someone, even black women along the path, then somebody might have said, I think it's great to have that. Perhaps we should take a different approach to this because everybody's hair is not the same. I just think it was something that you didn't think about,
Yeah.
right? And we
Yeah.
all do it.
We do.
We all
We
do
do.
it.
We
We
do.
all do it, and you don't know what you don't know. So again, that's the business case. When we see these big stories in the news where somebody makes a mistake and people jump all on them and, oh, they're just racist. Maybe. Or maybe it was a blind spot because they don't have representation of who they are even targeting or trying to serve
Yeah.
in the spaces where they listen to their voices.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that is, to me, that's a bigger point.
Yeah.
That's a bigger point. And I
Yeah.
think that's a point that all of us can take, no matter how big or how small our organizations are, no matter
Yeah.
how big or small our companies are. Think about who you're serving. If you're a business owner, who is it that you are really trying to provide? And I mean, be specific. I'm not just talking about what they look like or their age. I'm talking
Yes.
about what's the profile of it, exactly who you're trying to provide, products or services to.
That's
And
good.
do you have them at the table when you're making decisions, big and small? Are you listening? Because I assure you, if you do that, your profitability will go up. The research supports it. The
Come on through with
research
that, because
supports
you
it.
talking from a place of profitability, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love that you. I mean, like I would like. I love that you bring that up because we say here, right? Passion is our people is our bottom line. Profit is our people are bottom line, but passion is our profit maker. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. They have to remind me. Sometimes I know what I'm saying. It ain't coming out. But I realize that the passion, right, is our profit maker and the people are our bottom line, because what you just said, right, is realizing that if you've got the fire because you can identify what the people you serving, right? You're not passionate about something. I'm passionate about women, right? Because I'm a woman. Am I
Sure.
passionate about, man, I'm passionate about seeing people win. I do. I am passionate about underdogs winning, marginalized communities winning. Why? Because that's me. Right. So there is some level from that standpoint. And so I love that you bring out profitability because we don't, we have tech tools, right? We now have, I love technology. We are not able, you and I wouldn't be able to do this podcast without technology. So we're grateful for technology. But how can we really see that people, right? People in general are necessary. So all generations should be considered. Because what I'm hearing, and I want to hear this from you, is I hear, girl, this next generation, or this next generation, I don't know. That's one. Two is, it's crazy to me that I can't find good talent. I hear that. What, like, how can you share in your practice, right? And I want you to share, what's the name of your business?
SP Grace.
SP Grace, and we're going to come to
Yes,
that.
it was named for my mother, my grandmother, and my great grandmother.
Oh my gosh, that's
It's a
so
tribute
sweet.
to them. Yes.
That's their name, SP Grace?
No, so it was each of their maiden names. And so the letters represent their maiden names. And Grace I spelled out because of God's grace, and I'm always asking for it.
Okay.
And so I'm always trying my best to extend it to others. And so that was how I named that company. But I'm sorry I distracted you.
Yeah, but I love names So we, we'll definitely, I want to be able to share that. But before we get from that point, what I do want to say is, how do you help teams, right, to be able to, I think that myth of I can't find good people, like what are some steps that they can find to be able to find good people? Because you, right, as a leadership, you're in these spaces, you're seeing it, right? You're seeing what works. You also are seeing some of them blind spots. What do business or, owners, organizations, companies need to be mindful? Because you just said it, they losing profit.
Yes. So first of all, we have to realize that we get in our own way all the time by the stories that we tell ourselves. First of all, we tell ourselves that we never were the problem generation.
Yeah.
Whatever generation you are in, the previous generation thought you were nuts too. Okay? They had issues with your values, your priorities, how you moved as a generation. Because as generations, we move differently because the world is different when we come up and when we come of age. So, I read something recently that talked about how quickly so many of these Gen Z young people are getting hired and fired because we are impatient with their differences. Here's the reality. You cannot X out an entire generation from the workplace. So get that out of your head. It is not about, ooh, these young people are bad, or they can't do this, or they can't do that. That is according to our perspective, but we have to learn and accept, that the world is changing. And we got to change too. And we cannot eliminate an entire generation from the workforce. They are different. How do they move? Why are they the way that they are? Understand more about how these Zs move, because they are our youngest generation in the workforce right now. And, I remember when millennials were coming into the workforce and everybody was like doing all this training around how to make sure we could work with millennials. And it's so funny to me that the millennials are very impatient with disease. It's just hilarious to me.
I'm like, really?
Yes,
I said the same thing.
Because the Xers were like, that was y'all to us, right? Like, when you all came in, we were like, why are you babying them?
Yes.
Like, that was just the mindset. And so it's funny to me. But so one, I think stop telling yourself that. The reality is that they are right on par with what every generation thinks about the next generation in early adulthood, okay? We don't understand each other because we come of age at a different time and the world is doing some real different things. In addition to that, look at how do you cultivate and nurture their talent. Put the responsibility back on you. Identify the core things that you need that are essential for the jobs that you want to, that you have. And then put the responsibility on yourself to how do I support them in a way that gets them to grow and them to develop, and that allows them to come into their own. And they are going to change your companies. They are going to change your businesses. They are going to change your workforce in ways you might not like. You might be perfectly happy with the way you have things set up, but let me assure you, in a world that is changing so fast, and where we have AI coming in like gangbusters, and where we have policy changes and all kind of stuff that is just transforming the way business operates and where the priorities are, where the funds go, all of that, you better get with it. You better get with these young people, identify their strengths, show them that you value what they bring to the table, make them feel like they belong instead of that they are being criticized for being who they are. Show them that they are important and that you want to learn from them and that you want them to learn from you. I assure you, you will transform the culture of your organization, your company, your business. You will make sure that it really has to get in your head, though. This is our own mindset because we get in our way. And then, you have people in my age, our hormones start doing things, and our patience with people starts to change and shift. And so when you're telling me that I have to be patient with folks, that I'm like, just find me new people. Like that sounds funny, but the reality of it is these are the people. And so we have to continue to change and grow ourselves as professionals if we want to stay relevant. And especially when you're talking about business owners, if you want to stay profitable, because I assure you, where the money might have been last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, is not where it may be next year or 2 years from now. And so having them on board and really understanding how they move through the world, you might be amazed at how they open up your mind to new revenue streams for your
Yeah,
business, to new
absolutely.
opportunities, to new approaches. I mean, my daughter has taken over my social media because she said mine was whack. Okay, my daughter is 20. And
I love
she
it.
said that my social media was whack. And she said I was on Facebook with all the old people, which I personally find offensive because I don't think I am old, but whatever.
They do
Um,
say that. You're right.
and
Yeah.
she was like, Mom, you got to at least have, an Instagram. Like, that's bare minimum. And you really need to be doing TikToks. I said, my business does not support TikToks.
Yes.
I am not
Yes.
a TikToker,
Yes. Yes.
And so she was insistent that for me to stay relevant, she said, you have to change. And
Yeah.
so what I am saying to you, I am also saying to myself. And as I have released the reins, she is now managing my social media. The things that she puts out there, sometimes I'm like, and this is new. Sometimes I'm like, Lord, okay.
I know.
That's not how I would have approached it. But you know what? I am evolving and I'm growing too. And I am watching my business do different things because of that.
That's good,
So
Dr. Carmen. I
that's just
appreciate
all I
that.
would offer for
Yeah,
that.
that's good feedback. Dr. Carmen, so how can people connect with you?
So, now you can connect with me on Instagram.
You know I set you up. Soon as you said, I was like, well, so how can they connect with you?
Yes, you can connect with me on Instagram. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Dr. Carmen Bell-Ross. And let me tell you, this is funny. So Ross is my ex-husband's name,
Okay.
and Bell is my maiden name. And I'm going to tell you why I hyphenated them after I was divorced.
Ooh.
Because Bell and Ross, if you don't know, is a luxury brand. They have like watches or something. Like, they're super duper expensive, but it is a luxury brand. And I said, well, I don't want to keep his name because,
Yeah.
and I want my
Yeah.
own name, but Bell and Ross, honey, that's a luxury brand just like me.
Huh?
So I hyphenated and I kept it. So y'all remember that. Bell
Dr.
Ross. when you
That's
look
good
it up.
context to be able to. So what it also says is that, right, this is a luxury brand, but the work that you do is high quality, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you, I do want to share with you this too. So anybody can Google me at Carmen Bell-Ross. You will find my LinkedIn. You will now find I have an Instagram. And there will be more stuff on it. It's coming. She's working on me.
And what's your website?
My website is spgrace.com. S is in Sam, P is in Paul, grace.com.
That's so
And one thing I do want to share with you that I'm really excited about that we are working on right now is, having been in this space of leadership development and career development and really seeing the trends and having studied this work over time, I have also worked with young people who wanted to go to college and were looking to stand out in the admissions landscape. And so I've done this for years, and I did it as a volunteer, and people didn't know, their parents or somebody, was giving them guidance that was outdated because we went to college a long time ago. But in any case, one of the things that a lot of people don't understand is that this is a game. And so you got to have a strategic plan. How do you win a game if you don't know the rules? And so one of the things that I'm doing now is helping families to understand the rules of the game so that in this crowded, increasingly competitive landscape, y'all, because people love to say, well, my kid has this 4.0 and they're the leader of the free world. And we
That's
come up
true.
with all this stuff, right? But guess what? Everybody applying to school is doing those same things. So how do you stand out in that space? You have to have a strategy, and you have to be very thoughtful, and you most importantly need to understand the rules of the game. And so that is some work I'm doing. I do that voluntarily. I share my insights. I am from Detroit. I am a Detroit girl at heart. I know you are a Chicago girl, so I know you can relate. We're like sister cities. You know what I mean?
They are sister cities. I totally agree. I totally
we are sister
agree.
cities, and so. But our program is called Elevate, the College Smarter Method. So
Okay.
if you are a person who is looking at how do I strategically position my kid as the landscape changes, as the world turns, and as things get increasingly competitive, then by all means, check us out. It's in our pre-college solutions on our website, spgrace.com.
That's good. And I say
yeah.
this to say that I love us, that, and I'll say this as we wrap up, as part of the podcast, one of the things that I made sure we shine light on was service-based businesses. Not that I love my products, right? We hear
Sure.
them, we hear the things that come off the shelves. But one of the things that we didn't hear, right, is that attorney that helped you to be able to trademark or patent that product. We don't hear that coach that helped them to advance to be able to make more money. We don't hear that marketing company that helped you to solve some of those. We don't hear that. And so it was important that we built this podcast to really shine light on some service-based businesses that were Black businesses. Because oftentimes, right, that when we hear Black History Month, we go in those stores and purchase, which we love. Like, this isn't to take away, this is to add. But what we also have to be intentional with is service-based. So when we're in companies as leaders, that we turn the dial up to say, hey, have we looked at some HR companies? Have we looked at some leadership companies? Have we looked at marketing service companies as part of our vendor pool? That's the reason why we did that, because the reality of it all is, in some regards, as someone who's worked in PR for so long, right, it's easy to tell a story of a product. It's very easy to tell that story in media because you can touch it, you can feel it, you can do that. But when you're talking about service, right, you can't really all the way, get it. And so we wanted to make sure that people could identify some solid Black service, professional services that they can connect to solve some of their problems, right? And that was important, right?
I love that. And I love that you did that, because the other part of it is that, like you said, people don't know. And especially because your focus is around talking about business, right? We don't know how important it is to have the right advisors and the right people helping you to be strategic. And that is one of the things that you get from really strong service providers, right? How do you get an edge?
Yeah.
And I am really proud of the work that we do as a company to help people, leaders, get an edge with their team, help people move through their careers, help people to do all this stuff in their workplace. And right now, college is not for everybody. So don't walk away with this statement. That is not where I'm going with this. But if college is for you, I have a revolutionary approach that is strategic. It's less stressful for the family. It is less stressful for the student. We need to quit stressing these kids out, and they will still get into elite colleges. My daughter is at Harvard. She's majoring in neuroscience right now. She's dissecting mouse brains and stuff. Her best friend, who I've been working with for years, is at NYU at their film school. She's a U.S. Congressional Gold Medal winner and also a Disney Dreamer because of the guidance that I provided to them. The list goes on, and the experience of it for the parents and for the child they had great memories along the way. And their kids stood out in a way that they had lots and lots of options to give them an edge. And I tell people all the time, we lift as we climb. We have to. We have to. So by helping you get an edge, then these young women now, they are positioned to help others. And they have been lifting while they've been climbing too. When they move out of their internship roles and stuff, I'm like, who you recommending? Who you referring? Like, you gotta, you moving, but you gotta help somebody else. And so we can do that really well. We could do it strategically. We could do it so that it does not create more grief. We don't need more grief in our lives. We don't need more stress.
Yeah, that's good. The one thing that I will say, Dr. Carmen, is that I appreciate you for building that track, because I do think that the parents, when you said it's all good for the whole family, because I do think that it's a family, it's a family affair when it comes into that college decision and process. So I do have to ask you this question. Why do Black businesses matter?
Well, wow. That's a powerful and loaded question. We always, I think, get distracted sometimes by, for example, Black History Month. We celebrate Black history 1 month out of 12. We are making Black history right now. It is March. Yes, that's fine. We can, we matter as humans. We matter in every space we occupy. Our businesses matter. Our businesses employ more Black people, right? And we want to do it well and in a spirit of excellence. And so we have to collaborate in ways that allow us to have the resources to be more excellent in how we run our businesses, how we learn how to improve our businesses. You know, to me, that's just what I think of when I think of excellence, working together to rise together, to help each other. There is room, way enough room at the top for all of us. Okay, y'all don't believe that whole, you know, there's not enough to go around. Yes, there is. Yes, there is. And I think that for Black businesses, if you care about, you know, your cousins having employment and gainful employment and having opportunities opened up for them, even outside of Black businesses, because you have people who are in these various leadership roles who can lift and who can continue to provide opportunity and access to open doors and things. So I just think that we as a people can continue to just adopt the mindset. We need to embrace and lean into the mindset that we got this. You know, they always say, ain't nobody coming to rescue us. That's okay. We don't need it.
We don't.
We got this.
We
Let's do
don't.
it together. And we just continue to be intentional with how we spend our money.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to tell you who not to spend your money with, but what I will say is be intentional with where you choose to spend your dollars, right?
Absolutely.
And give people feedback if you have an experience that is less than ideal with a business that you know is a small business. I assure you that they probably would benefit significantly from your constructive feedback.
Agreed.
Right? And, you know, let's not be so quick to write each other off. You know, any business can have staff that does things that are not what the owner would have them do, right? We let's extend each other a little bit more grace, especially at a time when we are not getting it publicly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's extend it to each other.
Yeah.
Let's extend each other a little bit more grace and extend it to ourselves and be forgiving when we have times where we even feel like we fall short. It's okay. We just keep going.
Yeah.
We got this.
That's good. I think, you know, every time I ask that question, everyone gives me a different answer. I felt the chills in that one because it is something that I scream at. I scream only because we don't have communities that we can walk down the street, right? Go get our nails done, go talk to the attorney, go talk to a coach, all on the same block or 2 blocks from it, right? We just don't have that, right? And so, you know, this is why we created, but that doesn't mean that the passerby that's walking through there is a different color, a different origin, can't benefit from that service or even collaborate with them to be able to expand their business. And I think that's the part, you know, right, that we just don't see. And oftentimes people want to collaborate. They don't know where to start, where to go, right? And so that's, you know, something that we have to constantly look at. And I remember a guest we had said, you know, we have to learn how to say, right, you could literally do this whole job by yourself, but if you brought in somebody else, what would that look like for your business, right? You can go after more business. And so we have to understand that point of collaboration. So I'm so glad you thought about that you said that, because when we built this, we really wanted to speak from collaboration. We wanted to start from advocating for businesses, professional businesses, Black businesses, right? It was important to be able to create this space. So as we wrap, Dr. Carmen, what brings you joy?
Oh, wow. What brings me joy? Now, my default answer would be to say my daughter, and I know everybody talks about their kids and, you know, all that. So that's a default. So I'm going to not say that.
Okay.
What brings me joy is helping other people win, seeing them realize their dreams, seeing them see themselves situated in their world differently than they thought was possible, seeing them explore new heights and helping support that. I love that. I love it. I love being a part of somebody's story when I'm blessed to be able to be that. And even if I'm not able to be part of it, to watch it is so inspiring and encouraging to me. It makes me believe that anything is possible. And that's what allows me to keep going when things don't feel great. When being in business makes me wonder if I should just get a job and have, that conversation with myself. On those days when I question if I made the right moves, seeing other people win is so encouraging, empowering to me, and I love it. I absolutely love it, and that's why I love the work that I get to do, because my career is set up that way by default. My whole job is helping people win. That's what I get to do all the time. And it's kind of selfish now that I think about it, because it just makes me happy.
But again, it's a service that all people need, right? And you have a segment of people that you service that I think is pretty dope. Please share your website again for everyone. I just want to say that because Dr. Carmen, we've said it, she is dope. But one thing we want to make sure is that if there is collaboration opportunities, there's ways that she can be a part of your advisory team. You think of her organization, her company, and what she is doing, because I'm being very intentional in 2025 to be able to connect more and more businesses together to be able to build, advance, grow, and win, everything that you talked about, right? And so you can listen to this and say, hey, how can I see myself, whether that's you are Gen Z or you are a baby boomer, understand that there's still value, right? And that's what you've really, really, really shared with us. And so please share where people can connect with you, Dr. Carmen.
Sure. Again, the website is spgrace.com. And if you're looking for college support, check out our pre-college solutions, our Elevate program. And also, you can also find me on social media. Just Google me, because I don't even know all the handles. But Dr. Carmen Bell-Ross, you will find me on something. It's going to...
I love that. She was like, just Google me. And I say that, and I'm so glad you said that.
That is how I have to find it myself. Don't tell anybody. I'm ashamed. I only know how to use Facebook. I'm getting better. I promise I am evolving. But I love what you are doing. I love that you connect and provide resources and support for Black businesses. I absolutely love it. Wishing you nothing but greater success, onward and upward. And 2025 is a year of great opportunity. Stay focused. Stay focused. Don't get distracted by what you are seeing and hearing swirling around you. Stay focused. Look for the opportunity. When something goes away, something new emerges. Make sure you are in that space. And as a business owner, you have to remember, in times of greatest change, that is where there's the greatest opportunity. During the pandemic, tons of businesses went out of business and tons became billionaires. So I want you to remember, no matter what is happening in the landscape, I don't care who is in any office, and no matter what the political landscape might look like, anywhere, locally or whatever, stay focused, keep the main thing, look for opportunity. It is there. And remember, whatever God has for you is for you. Your name is on it, and can't nobody else do anything about it.
Well, there you have it, Dr. Carmen. You guys, I'm going to say this. Whenever, again, I get to be in the space, every time I think I'm done with this podcast, I'm not doing another podcast, and then I get an amazing guest who just pours into me. So thank you, Dr. Carmen, for pouring into me today and reminding me to continue to do this. And so the fact that what she shared is so important. I thank you guys for listening. And more importantly, share this episode with someone you think that needs to hear this. Thank you guys for another episode of Black Businesses Matter.
The Black Businesses Matter podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer, marketing, and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. Follow us on Instagram at Black Businesses Matter.